The priest smiled, his gentle voice echoing through the silent church. And now the rings. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. My fiancé, Mark, looked at his best man. The best man looked back with empty hands. A wave of confusion washed over the guests. But I wasn't confused. My eyes locked on my sister, my maid of honor, Ashley. A tiny, cruel smile played on her lips. She had done it. She had taken them. She wanted to ruin my perfect day, and I had a front row seat to watch her succeed. My name is Brittany Flores, and I was 28 years old on my wedding day. For my entire life, I lived in the shadow of my older sister. She was the beautiful one, the smart one, the one everyone loved. I was just Brittany. Quiet, simple Brittany. I thought this day would finally be mine. I saved for years to afford this dress, this beautiful church, this moment where I could finally feel like the main character in my own life. But Ashley's jealousy was a poison, and she had just poured it all over my dream. The whispers started, rippling through the pews like a wildfire. My mother looked horrified. Mark's parents were shaking their heads. Mark grabbed my hand, his palm sweaty. "I don't understand," he stammered, his eyes darting around frantically. But I understood perfectly. This was Ashley's masterpiece. She leaned in close, her breath smelling of champagne and hate. "Looks like God doesn't want you to be happy either, little sis," she whispered. Her voice a venomous hiss meant only for me. Tears burned my eyes as the full weight of her cruelty crushed me. She had won. I had been so careful. Mark and I even bought a backup pair of rings just in case. We hid them in my mother's purse. But when my mom checked, her face went pale. The little velvet box was gone. Ashley had found those too. She left nothing to chance. My perfect day had turned into my worst nightmare. My body trembled with a mixture of shame and rage. I wanted to scream at her, to expose her for the monster she was. But I was frozen, trapped in a nightmare while everyone watched me fall apart. My world was ending right there at the altar. I was about to call the whole thing off, to run away and never look back. Just as a sob escaped my lips, a calm voice cut through the chaos. It was Liam, the best man. He hadn't panicked at all. He stepped forward, his eyes cold as ice, and looked directly at my sister. "You're clever, Ashley," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "But you forgot one thing." He reached into his own jacket pocket. "You didn't know he asked me to bring a third secret pair. If you've ever felt the pain of being betrayed by the one person who was supposed to protect you, please, I'm begging you, subscribe to this channel. Knowing you're out there listening gives me the strength to tell this story. Please let me know in the comments where you are watching from. I believe that when good people come together, even online, it sends a wave of positive energy into the world. May you and your family always be surrounded by loyalty and true love. I thought Liam had saved my wedding. I was so wrong. The real nightmare was only just beginning. Liam opened the small velvet box. Inside were two simple, elegant gold bands, even more beautiful than the ones I had picked out. A wave of relief washed over me, so powerful it almost brought me to my knees. The guests let out a collective sigh, then started to clap. My eyes shot to my sister, Ashley. The cruel smile was gone, replaced by a look of pure shock and disbelief. She stared at the rings, then at Liam, as if he were a ghost. She couldn't understand how her perfect, evil plan had failed so spectacularly. But then I looked at my fiancé, Mark. He wasn't looking at me with love and relief. He was staring at the rings in Liam's hand with wide, terrified eyes. Why did my groom look more scared than my sister? The priest cleared his throat, and the ceremony continued. Mark's hand trembled as he took the ring from Liam. His skin was cold and clammy against mine as he slid the gold band onto my finger. He repeated his vows, but the words sounded hollow and forced. He refused to look me in the eye. Something was terribly, terribly wrong. A memory flashed in my mind. Just last week, I overheard Mark talking to Liam in the backyard. "Are you sure about this?" Mark had asked, his voice shaking. Once we do it, there's no going back. Liam had replied. It's the only way to protect her. Protect me from what? Now it was my turn. I said my vows, my voice barely a whisper. I felt like an actor in a play I didn't understand. I promised to love and honor a man who suddenly felt like a complete stranger. The loving man I knew was gone, replaced by this nervous, scared person. When the priest finally said, "You may now kiss the bride," the moment I had dreamed of my entire life felt like a curse. Mark leaned in, and his lips were cold against mine. The kiss was quick, lifeless. It wasn't a kiss of love. It felt like a goodbye. As we were pronounced husband and wife, the church erupted in cheers. The happy music started to play. But as we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, I felt nothing but an icy dread spreading through my chest. Everyone was smiling, but I knew this wasn't a happy ending. Liam fell into step beside us, smiling for the crowd. He leaned in close to me, his voice a low, urgent whisper that nobody else could hear. "Congratulations, Brittany. Now listen carefully. Do not go to the reception. Your new husband has a secret." He pressed a small key into my palm, so small I could barely feel it. "This is for a room at the motel down the road. Go there instead. Wait for me," he whispered. "What you find in that room will explain everything. And it will destroy you." My feet felt like lead as I smiled for the cameras outside the church. Family and friends hugged me, telling me how happy they were. But Liam's words echoed in my head. "Your new husband has a secret." The small, cold key in my palm felt heavier than my wedding ring. I looked at Mark, my husband. He was smiling and laughing with his friends, but his eyes were empty. He looked like a puppet, his strings being pulled by some invisible force. I had to make a choice: go to the party celebrating our new life, or go find the secret that could end it. Leaning against Mark, I pretended to feel dizzy. "It's all been so much," I whispered, pressing a hand to my forehead. "I just need to lie down for a few minutes before the reception." I expected him to worry, to offer to come with me. He did not. A look of pure relief washed over his face. "Of course," he said, almost too quickly. "Take all the time you need. I'll tell everyone you're just resting." He didn't want me there. He was happy I was leaving. The realization hit me like a punch to the stomach. While my mom was busy with guests, I slipped out a side door. My beautiful white dress felt like a costume as I hurried down the street, away from the church bells and the cheering crowds. I was a bride running not toward her future, but away from a terrible lie. The motel was old and small, with a flickering neon sign. It was the last place a bride should be on her wedding day. Finding the room number from the key, my heart pounded with every step. I was terrified of what was behind that door, but I knew I couldn't live without knowing. With a shaky hand I turned the key. The door creaked open into a dim, quiet room. It was empty, except for a laptop sitting on the neatly made bed. Beside it was a white envelope with my name, Brittany, written in neat, familiar handwriting. It was from Liam. My fingers trembled as I tore it open. The note inside was short. "I'm so sorry, Brittany," it read. "I tried to stop this. You deserve the truth. The password for the video on the laptop is truth. Watch it all. Then you will understand why this wedding could not happen." I sat on the edge of the bed, my huge dress pooling around me on the floor. I opened the laptop and typed in the password. A single video file appeared on the screen. I clicked play, and the screen lit up with a secretly recorded video. It showed Mark's living room. He was pacing back and forth, looking stressed. Then, the camera turned and I saw who he was talking to. It was my sister, Ashley. She wasn't angry. She was crying. "You promised me, Mark," she sobbed. "You promised you'd call it off. Tell her the real reason you're marrying her." I stared at the screen, my heart frozen in my chest. The video kept playing. On the laptop, my sister's tear-streaked face was twisted in desperation. Mark stood across from her, looking like a cornered animal. "I can't," he said, running his hands through his hair. "I can't ruin her like that." You have to. Ashley cried back at him. It's the only way. Tell her the truth about your father. My mind spun with confusion. What did Mark's father have to do with anything? I knew he was sick, but I didn't understand the connection. Mark's next words made everything sickeningly clear. My family is going bankrupt, Brittany, he said, speaking to the hidden camera Liam must have placed. We're about to lose everything. Our business, our house, everything. My father's treatment costs a fortune. He took a deep, shaky breath, and the horrible truth finally came out. He told the camera about the trust fund my grandparents left me. It wasn't millions, but it was enough to solve all his problems. There was one rule, one little detail I'd almost forgotten. I could only get the money after I was legally married. My marriage was the key to my inheritance. It was Ashley's idea, Mark confessed, his voice breaking. My own sister. She knew about the money. She went to the man I loved and gave him a plan. Pretend to love me, marry me, get my inheritance to save his family, and then divorce me a year later. My entire love story was a lie. Business deal. Every "I love you," every sweet text, every promise for the future was part of a script written by my sister. She didn't just want to ruin my wedding day. She wanted to destroy my entire life from the inside out. But then, on the video, something strange happened. Ashley's anger seemed to crumble. I can't let you do it, she sobbed. I thought I could, but she's my sister. I'm going to stop it. I'll hide the rings at the ceremony. All of them. It has to stop. So her stunt at the wedding. It wasn't just cruelty. It was a twisted, last-minute attempt to save me from a trap she had set herself. The video ended, leaving me in the silent, dingy motel room, staring at a blank screen. My marriage wasn't real. My husband didn't love me. Felt nothing. No tears, no anger. Just a cold, empty hole where my heart used to be. How do you recover from this? How do you breathe when you find out your whole life is a lie? As I sat there, lost in the emptiness, I heard a sound. A key sliding into my motel room door. The lock clicked, and the door swung open. It wasn't Liam. It was Mark, my husband, still in his tuxedo. His face was pale and stained with tears. Brittany, he choked out, his voice a raw whisper. Ashley told me you'd be here. I just got a call from the hospital. My father, he's gone. It's too late. It's too late. Mark's words hung in the stale motel air. His father was gone. The money he married me for, the money that cost me my heart, could no longer save him. The whole ugly, painful lie was all for nothing. A bitter laugh tried to escape my lips, but I choked it down. I finally looked at him, my husband. This crying, broken man on the floor. I felt a strange emptiness, a quiet calm where a storm of rage should have been. So you destroyed my life for nothing, I said. My voice was flat, without tears or anger. It was the voice of a stranger. He crawled towards me, grabbing the hem of my expensive wedding dress with desperate hands. I'm so sorry, Brittany, he sobbed. Ashley planned it, but I went along with it. But somewhere along the way, pretending to love you turned into real love. I swear it did. His words meant nothing to me. Love. He didn't know the meaning of the word. My eyes drifted down to the simple gold band on my finger. The ring Liam had produced from his pocket. The ring that sealed this fake marriage. These rings, I asked, my voice still empty. Where did they come from? Mark looked up, his face filled with confusion. What do you mean? Those are the original rings. I gave them to Liam for safekeeping right before the ceremony. Cold chills snaked down my spine. That was impossible. Ashley had stolen the original rings. And the backup pair. So if Ashley stole both pairs, then whose rings were these? Where did Liam get them? Suddenly I understood. I was a pawn in a game I didn't even know I was playing. And Mark, my so-called husband, was just another piece on the board. He wasn't the king. The numbness inside me began to burn away, replaced by a cold, hard fire. I was done being a victim. I was done crying. I stood up, the white dress rustling around me. I pulled my hand away from his grasp and walked past him as if he were a piece of furniture. Picked up my phone. Mark scrambled to his feet, his eyes wide with panic. "What are you doing? Are you calling the police?" he asked, his voice trembling. I looked at him, and for the first time since walking into this room, I felt a flicker of power. "No," I said calmly. "I'm calling a lawyer." He let out a shaky breath of relief, but it didn't last long. "Brittany, wait," he pleaded. "You don't understand. About Liam. He's not my best man, he's not even my friend. He forced me into this." I ignored him and dialed the number Liam had written on the back of the envelope. The phone rang once. A calm, familiar voice answered immediately. It was Liam. But Mark's panicked words echoed in my head as Liam spoke. "I've been waiting for your call, Brittany," he said smoothly. "I assume you're ready to annul the marriage and begin your revenge." Revenge. The word left my lips as a hoarse whisper. On the other end of the phone, Liam's voice was steady and calm. Mark was now deathly quiet, staring at my phone as if it were a snake. He had heard Liam's offer, and it terrified him. "Mark was a fool, Brittany," Liam said, his voice sharp and clear. "And your sister is cruel. But they are just puppets. The man pulling their strings is the one we want. This was never just about your trust fund. This was about destroying your father's legacy." My father. He passed away from a heart attack 10 years ago. He was a good man, a respected businessman. What did he have to do with this nightmare? My mind raced, trying to connect the pieces of a puzzle that was bigger and darker than I could have ever imagined. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a new kind of energy. It wasn't fear anymore. It was something else. "Who are you, really?" Mark shook his head, silently begging me to hang up. I ignored him. A beat of silence passed before Liam answered. "My name is Liam Peterson," he said softly. "And your father, David Flores, wasn't just my mentor. He was my business partner. And he was the best friend I ever had." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Liam wasn't a stranger. He was a link to a past I barely understood. He explained everything in simple, brutal terms. Years ago, a rival businessman had set a trap for their company. He ruined them, stealing everything they had built and smearing my father's good name with lies. The stress and shame of it is what truly killed him. "That man's name is Arthur Vance," Liam continued, his voice laced with cold fury. "He's the man who loaned Mark's family all the money they couldn't repay. He pushed them into ruin, and then he sent his puppet, Mark, to finish the job by destroying you." It all clicked into place. My fake marriage, my sister's jealousy, Mark's desperation. It was all part of a 20-year-old vendetta against my father. I wasn't just a heartbroken bride. I was the final target in a rich man's war. I was supposed to be my father's final, humiliating defeat. "You have a choice," Liam said, his tone shifting. "We can annul this sham marriage, and you can walk away with your inheritance and try to forget this ever happened. Or you can stay and you can help me take back everything Arthur Vance stole from our families." I looked at Mark, this weak man who had let himself be used to hurt me. I thought of my father, whose name had been turned to dirt. The girl who cried in her wedding dress was gone. A daughter's anger took her place. "What do I do?" he asked. A faint smile was in Liam's voice. "Excellent," he said. "First thing tomorrow morning you are going to the bank with your new husband. You're not annulling the marriage yet. You're going to use that marriage license to claim every single dollar of your inheritance." The phone call ended, leaving a deafening silence in the cheap motel room. I looked at Mark, the man who was legally my husband. His face was a mask of pure terror. He wasn't the monster anymore. He was a scared little boy who had tangled with a dragon and gotten burned. My voice came out cold and steady, a voice I didn't recognize as my own. "Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, you and I are going to the bank. You will put on your suit, you will hold my hand, and you will smile like the happiest groom in the world." He shook his head, his whole body trembling. Brittany, you don't understand what Arthur Vance is capable of, he pleaded. This isn't a game. If he finds out we took the money for ourselves, he won't just ruin my family. He will make us disappear. He's done it before. For a fleeting moment, I saw the man I thought I loved, and a wave of pity washed over me. But I pushed it down, deep into the cold, empty place in my heart. Pity was a luxury I couldn't afford. That sounds like your problem, I said. Not mine. The next morning felt like a dream. I wasn't wearing white anymore. I wore a sharp black dress, my hair pulled back tightly. I looked like a woman going to a funeral, not one starting a new life. Mark, pale and sleep-deprived, walked beside me into the grand marble lobby of the bank. We sat across from the bank manager, a kind older man who beamed at us. "Congratulations on your marriage, Mrs. Vaughn," he said cheerfully. The name felt like acid on my skin. I forced a smile as he pushed a mountain of paperwork in front of me. My hand didn't shake as I signed my name over and over again. With every loop of the pen, I felt a piece of the old, trusting Brittany die. I was signing away my past, my heartbreak, my innocence. I was using the lie they had created to arm myself for the war to come. "The transfer is complete," the manager finally said. "The full amount of your trust is now in your new joint account." I felt a surge of power. Mark just looked sick. We had done it. We had stolen the bait right out of the shark's mouth. We walked out of the bank and into the bright sunlight, the fake smiles instantly dropping from our faces. "Now what?" Mark asked, grabbing my arm. "We have the money. What's Liam's grand plan? We can't just walk around waiting for Vance to find us." Just as he spoke, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. The message was short and terrifying. "Vance knows. He has eyes everywhere. Ditch your car and phones. Go to the address in your email. Push only. Run." My blood ran cold. My head snapped up and I scanned the busy street. Across the road, a man in a black suit sat in a parked car, pretending to read a newspaper. But he wasn't reading. His eyes were locked directly on us in his side view mirror. We weren't just being watched. We were being hunted. My heart hammered in my chest, but my face remained a calm mask. I squeezed Mark's hand, forcing a bright, happy laugh. "Oh, honey, you're so funny," I said loudly, pulling him towards the entrance of a large, busy department store. To the man across the street, we just looked like a happy newlywed couple going shopping. The second we were through the glass doors, the act dropped. "He's watching us," I whispered, my voice urgent and low. I pulled Mark behind a tall display of handbags. "We can't leave together. He's looking for a couple. We need to disappear into the crowd and come out as two different people." Mark just stared at me, his face pale with panic. He was frozen. I didn't have time for that. I pushed him towards the men's section. "Go. Buy a plain shirt, jeans, and a hat. Something you would never normally wear. Pay with cash. Meet me at the back alley exit in 10 minutes. Go." He stumbled off like a robot receiving a command. I quickly did the same, grabbing a dark hoodie, jeans, and a baseball cap from a rack. This wasn't a wedding dress. It was battle armor. As I walked towards the cash registers, my burner phone vibrated with another text from Liam. "Vance is tracking your new bank cards," it read. "Go to the currency exchange on the 3rd floor. Use the code word Nightingale for a full cash withdrawal. No ID needed. It's already arranged. After you have the money, destroy the cards and your phones. This is your only chance." My mind reeled. How could Liam arrange that so fast? Who was this man who could command banks with a single code word? There was no time to wonder. I found the desk and whispered the word to the clerk. Without a question, he went to a back room and returned with a heavy black duffel bag. The weight of it almost pulled my arm from its socket. It was real. All of it. The money, the danger, the man across the street. This was my life now. I paid for my new clothes with $100 bill from the bag and walked calmly towards the back exit. Mark was already there, looking like a stranger in his new clothes. I handed him a thick stack of cash. "What's the plan?" he whispered, his eyes darting around the alley. "Where are we going?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the email from Liam. "2 bus tickets." "You are going to the bus station," I said, my voice as cold as ice. "You will get on the 2 p.m. bus to Portland. You will not talk to anyone. You will just disappear." I shoved the ticket into his hand, keeping the other one for myself. He looked at his ticket, then at me, his eyes wide with confusion and a new kind of fear. "Wait, where are you going?" "The other ticket is for Miami." "We're splitting up," he stammered. "How will I find you? What do I do?" I zipped up the duffel bag and slung it over my shoulder. "You don't find me," I said, pulling the baseball cap down to hide my face. "You just run. And pray that Arthur Vance doesn't find you first." I turned my back on Mark and walked away without a second glance. Each step I took was a step away from my old life, from the girl who cried at her own wedding. Now I was just a woman in a baseball cap with a heavy bag and a mission. Alone. For a moment, walking through the crowded city streets, a wave of pure terror washed over me. I was following the orders of a man I barely knew, running from a villain I had never met. The bag on my shoulder felt less like power and more like a heavy stone, pulling me down into dark water. I took out my old phone, the one with all my pictures and memories, ready to smash it on the pavement as Liam had instructed. Just as my hand tightened around it, the screen lit up. The name on the screen made my blood run cold. It was Ashley, my sister. Against all reason, I answered, my voice a harsh whisper. "What do you want?" I heard frantic crying on the other end. "Brittany, thank God," Ashley sobbed. "Listen to me. A man came to the house. He's asking for you. He said his name is Vance, and he won't leave." "Oh God, Brittany. He has Mom." Before I could process her words, a cold, smooth voice took over the line. It was a man's voice, calm and cruel. "Hello, Brittany," he said. "It seems you have something that belongs to me. I've found that in business and in life, it's always wise to have insurance." I heard my mother cry out in the background. My whole body went rigid. "Family is a liability, don't you think?" the voice on the phone mused. "A weakness to be exploited. You have until midnight to return my money. Come alone. If you don't..." The line went dead. My plan, Liam's plan, all of it evaporated. Running to Miami meant nothing if my mother was in danger. I looked at the bus ticket in my hand. My ticket to safety, to a new life, to revenge. Meant nothing. With a surge of fury, I ripped it into tiny pieces. I was not running anymore. I was going back. I grabbed the burner phone and sent a quick, frantic text to Liam's secret number. "Vance has my mother. The plan is off. I'm going home." I was disobeying his orders. I was walking straight into a trap, and I didn't care. His reply came back in less than a second. It was not a warning. It was not an order to stop. It was just 2 simple, chilling words. "I know." Before I could even ask what he meant, a second text arrived. It was a picture of my mother's house, taken from a car across the street. My heart stopped. Third text came through. "He followed you from the bank." I followed him. A final message appeared. "Don't go to the house. Go to the diner 2 blocks away. Order a black coffee. Your father had a backup plan for everything. It's time you learned what it is." My hands trembled as I pushed open the door to the old diner. The little bell above it jingled, announcing my arrival. I slid into a worn red booth, the smell of old coffee and grease filling the air. "Just a black coffee," I mumbled to the waitress, my eyes scanning every corner of the room. A moment later, Liam slid into the seat across from me. He looked calm, but there was a fire in his eyes. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "Vance is so focused on the trap he set for you at the house. He won't even think to look for you here. He thinks he's won." "He has my mother, Liam," I whispered, my voice breaking. "How is that winning for us?" Liam leaned forward, his voice low and intense. "Because your father was smarter than Arthur Vance. He knew Vance would never stop, so he built a trap of his own. A ghost in the machine. He explained that years ago my father and he had set up a secret failsafe. They knew Vance's greatest weakness was the illegal money he hid in secret accounts all over the world. So they created a trigger, a key to unlock their entire investigation. And that key was my marriage. The moment you signed those bank papers, Liam said, a slow, grim smile spreading across his face, it did more than just release your trust fund. It triggered an anonymous tip to the federal government. A tip that gave them access to every illegal account, every dirty deal, every crime Vance has ever committed. My mind struggled to understand. The wedding wasn't just Vance's trap for me, I said, the pieces clicking into place. It was our trap for him. Liam nodded. Your father knew Vance's ego wouldn't let him resist using you. He used his own daughter's future as the bait to catch a monster. Just as he spoke, a faint sound drifted in from the outside. Sirens. They started as a distant wail and grew louder and louder, getting closer with every second. They weren't going somewhere else. They were heading directly for my street. Directly for my mother's house. The police weren't coming because of a hostage situation Vance had created. They were coming with federal warrants because of a plan my father had set in motion a decade ago. Vance thought he was the hunter, but he had just walked right into my father's cage. He was finished. We watched from the diner window as police cars swarmed the house. A few minutes later, Arthur Vance was led out in handcuffs, his face a mask of shock and rage. My mother and Ashley were escorted out by a police officer, wrapped in blankets. They were safe. It was over. My father had gotten his justice. He had protected me one last time from beyond the grave. The revenge was complete, not with a bang, but with the quiet, perfect click of a well-laid trap. I had my freedom, my family was safe, and my father's name was finally clear. I was no longer just a bride who was betrayed. I was David Flores's daughter. The road to healing is a long one, but for the first time I feel at peace. My father taught me that the greatest revenge is not anger, but intelligence, and that true strength comes from protecting the ones you love. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of their own strength. And please subscribe to the channel. Your support helps share stories of survival and hope, proving that even after the darkest storms, the sun will rise again. Thank you for listening.